Hey friends, Jarrod Haning here, and today I want to talk to you about the hats that we wear and how that affects the language that we think in. I've got a story, a study, and a strategy for you. One time when my son was 3 years old, we were on the playground, and it was just me and him, and this other boy was there. I didn't see his mom or anywhere near, and he was about the same age. He was about 3.5, 4 years old. For whatever reason, it seemed to cross this other boy's mind that it would be a good idea to try to impress me. So what he did is he shoves my son out of the way, like knocks him down, and grabs the wheel that he was playing with at the time. Grabs the wheel, after having shoved my son aside, looks back at me as if to say, "Aren't you proud of me? Look at what I'm doing now." In that moment, I want you to know that I saw myself picking this boy up and launching him possibly into orbit. Of course, I didn't do that. It also crossed my mind that that might not be a good idea. But in that moment, I wasn't Jarrod. I was Hanson's dad. And Hanson's dad has different thoughts from time to time than Jarrod has. And that's kind of the nature of the hats that we wear. The hats that we wear, they affect the language that we think in. And that language determines what makes sense to us, what seems safe, what seems dangerous, what seems like a good idea, what seems that everyone else should feel this way too. The language that we think in. And in that language are prejudices, our judgments, our values, our strengths, our weaknesses, our blind spots. That language has a big effect on our life. There is a test called the implied association test. These are things that for you are the gospel truth. They're implied. It goes without saying. You don't even have to mention it. What color is the sky? Blue. You don't have to think about that. What's your favorite restaurant in town? Oh, well, I kind of like this one or that one. There's a little bit more thinking there. What's your favorite color? Green. Okay, don't even have to think about that. An implied association, no thinking involved. And our judgments about other peoples and races and cultures, our judgments about political systems, our judgments about the ways that laws should be written in the country, those things can often be stored in our implied associations as well. So they do this test to ferret out what those are, but the findings were kind of surprising. They've done this with bilinguals, Spanish and English speakers, French and Arabic speakers, and they've also done this with Hebrew and Arabic speakers. I'll give an example of how it went with the Hebrew and Arabic speakers. They had two values. They had a Hebrew or an Arabic name and a happy or a sad emotion, so like a good emotion or a bad emotion, you might say. And they were just having them match it up. So they would take the Hebrew speaker and they would give them the instructions in Hebrew, and then they would flash up on the screen maybe a Hebrew name, Hezekiah, and happy. And he would be instructed to push a key if that was the case, if it was Hebrew and positive. Okay. And then they would flash an Arabic name on the screen, Hasad and angry. And then he would press a key if those were the case, if it was in fact an Arabic name and a negative emotion. Then they would reverse it, like Hebrew and negative and Arabic and positive, and go throughout it, go throughout it, go throughout it. Well, if for you, it's just generally understood that Arabs are bad people or negative people or dangerous people or angry people, if that for you, it's just common knowledge, which it could be if you're living in a city in Israel that's constantly being bombed. Maybe for you, it's just the gospel truth that Arabs are bad people. And maybe if you live in an Arabic town that's constantly being bombed, maybe for you, that's the truth that Hebrews are bad people. Is the sky is blue. The bombs are always coming from that direction. You don't have to think about it. So when they're pressing the button after they've made the calculation, okay, my instructions were if it was Hebrew and positive to press this button. Okay, and my instructions were if it was Arabic and negative to press this button. Well, if it's the truth for you, then you don't have to think about it. So you press the button faster. Your response time is lower. But when they flash up on the screen, Hasad, happy, or hasad, generous. That causes a confusion in your mind because you've never associated Arab with something positive. So you have to think about it. Okay, wait a minute. That's Arab and positive. That's not what I was. So it takes you a little bit longer to respond. And they're able to measure those response times, and that helps to ferret out what for you is the gospel truth. Okay, here's what's interesting though. When they give the test to bilingual speakers, Hebrew-Arabic speakers, and they give the test in Hebrew, there is a shorter response time for the gospel truth that Arabs are bad people. It takes them longer to respond. It's like the sky is blue. They don't have to think about it. Well, here's what's weird. When they give the same test to bilinguals, Hebrew and Arabic, but they give the test instructions in Arabic. This is what we want you to do. This is what we want you to look for. These are the keys you're going to use. They give the instructions in Arabic. That response time goes away. There is, in fact, no difference between how they view Hebrew people and how they view Arabic people. The judgments go away. The bias goes away. The negativity goes away, which shows us that the things we hold to be the gospel truth, the sky is blue, this people said is good, that people said is bad, those judgments and those beliefs are not true because they only exist in the language that we are thinking in at the time. If somebody is thinking in the Hebrew language as they're processing how to take this test, they have judgments against Arabs. But if they're thinking in an Arabic language while they're understanding how to take the test, they no longer have judgments against Arabs because the hat that we're wearing affects the language that we think in. And in that language is our power, is our weakness, is our victim, is our overcomer, is our conqueror, is our generosity, is our loving, is our unforgiveness, and our hate. All of that is stored in the language that we process the world in. Is our strengths, is our weaknesses, is our blind spots. Well, wouldn't it be interesting if there was a test that we could take to show us what some of those blind spots are? And there is, and I want to share it with you. It's called the MindScan. And in the MindScan, it provides a scientific assessment of exactly what your strengths and weaknesses are, your unique blind spots and danger areas, and how they could be affecting your relationships, how they could be affecting your income, how they could be affecting your health. But because these are blind spots, they are areas that your brain can't think in. So it's not even aware that they exist, which is the amazing power of the MindScan. I want to share it with you. If you're interested in finding out what those are for you, send me a message right here, and I will happily get you a link. I look forward to seeing you on the other side.